Hello and welcome to Book of the Mouse Club, episode 10, Wednesday, September 12th, 2018.
Morning, monsieur.
Where are you off to?
The bookshop. I just finished the most wonderful story about a beanstalk and an ogre and
That's nice. Marie! The baguettes! Hurry up!
I'm sorry, but how can one possibly pay attention to a book with no pictures in it?
My dear child, there are a great many good books in this world without pictures.
I almost bounced clear out of the book. Some bouncing, huh?
Come home or make myself known.
J. Thaddeus Turtle, Esquire. Have you never met him? You will find his story in this delightful little book, The Wind and the Willows.
I've come to return the book I borrowed.
Finished already?
Oh, I couldn't put it down. Have you got anything new?
Welcome back to Book of the Mouse Club. I'm joined today by my co-host, Emily.
Hey, Courtney, I'm ready for episode 10.
I know, we've made it. It's been a fun summer, and today we're joined once again by a special guest. So you're going to want to grab a snack for this episode because we're celebrating all things Disney dining, from awesome candy apples to zebra domes and every tasty treat in between. We're joined by Trisha Daab, author of 2 Disney books. Trisha chronicles her Disney adventures as a not-so-evil stepmom in her first book and eats her way through the alphabet and the Disney parks and tasting the magic from A to Z, the best food and beverages at Walt Disney World, which we're discussing today. This book is filled with suggestions and possibly even some dishes that the most seasoned, pun intended, Disney veteran may not even know about. Whether you're planning your next big trip or looking to spice up your park visits as a local, there's something for everyone in this delicious and delectable guide. Welcome, Trisha.
Hello, I'm really happy to be here.
We are happy to have you. Food and Wine just started, so we thought it would be fun to do a show about food. So I know I gave a little bit of an overview, but do you want to kind of summarize your book in your own words?
So Tasting the Magic, you summarized it perfectly. It's really just celebrating the food at Disney World. People ask me all the time for help with planning their trips, and one of the first things I ask them is, where are you eating? And the dining at Disney is so much of the experience. There's so much magic they put into the dining experiences that you can have. So this book was really about celebrating that and talking to the cast members and talking to Disney chefs and really understanding some of what goes behind all of that magical food that you get to experience when you're at Walt Disney World.
So Trisha, would you mind sharing a little bit about your experience as a Disney fan, just to give our listeners a little more background on you?
Absolutely. So my first trip to Disney was when I was very, very young. I actually went with my grandma, and my first book, The Not So Evil Stepmother and the Most Magical Place on Earth, is actually dedicated to her. So that was really the first experience. I wouldn't have considered myself a huge Disney fan until we went to Disney in 2005 and had a Disney wedding. And from then on, we started to take kind of more regular trips. But my husband and I have a big family. We have yours, mine, and ours. So we have 5 kids. And as you can imagine, going to Disney with a family of 7 is an investment. And so when I was planning one of our trips in 2015 to celebrate our 10-year wedding anniversary for a group of 11 people, I was reading a lot of guidebooks, and there's so many great ones out there, but I noticed most of them were kind of geared towards mom and dad and their 2 kids. And I felt like there was an opportunity for a guide that was a bit more geared towards the blended families or the bigger groups that are going, because it's a very different process when you're planning for that many people. And that was really what got me started in the world of writing about Disney World, which is not, it wasn't ever anything I kind of aspired to do. I meet all these wonderful kids that they have all these aspirations to be authors, and it's incredible to have the opportunity to talk to them and work with them. But for me, my background's in healthcare marketing, and so that's really my day job, and the writing is something I really do as a passion. And so that's really where it started. I've been to Disney, I think I'm at 12 times, which for some people I talk to is nothing. They've been like upwards of 40. And then there's other people I talk to that are like, I've been once. So I guess 12 kind of seems like I'm maybe in the middle of that bell-shaped curve of Disney fans. But we just really like it because it's an opportunity for a real mental break. You're inside your Disney bubble when you're at Disney World. And that's really what has inspired us to go on as many trips to Disney World as we have, and also inspired my book.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing, Trisha. So we want to jump into that book because we had a lot of fun reading this. So we're going to start at the beginning. As you said in your foreword, there are 300 places to get food in Disney. So we want to know, how did you keep all of this information organized? How did you decide what to eat, tackle your research? There's a lot.
Yes, it's interesting. And one of the things I mentioned in the book is 300 to some people is just overwhelming. And, oh my gosh, I don't know where to start. And then for someone like me who's a foodie, I'm like, oh yeah, like, let me get my hands on this one. So really, actually, where the inspiration for the book came from is, and I don't even know exactly how it started, but I got the idea to do like an A to Z food challenge. And I write about that in Tasting the Magic from A to Z. Towards the end of the book, I write about going to Disney World for 4 days with my son. And we were there for a cheerleading event. He was a co-ed cheerleader in high school. And so I tried to eat the alphabet in 4 days. And it's actually really hard to do. And what I did was I got help from people on Instagram. It gave me the opportunity to engage and get engage with some new people on Instagram. And I said, help me with X, help me with U. And people would send all these ideas in of different foods to try. And so then I did it. I tried to eat the alphabet. And as I was doing that, I was realizing this kind of new way of thinking about food at Disney, this kind of fun way of this A to Z, because so many people need somebody to help them narrow the choices because there are so many. So a lot of people that have asked me to help them narrow. And that was also one of the things that I was trying to do in the book is there are so many places, and every place has its little thing. It has its fans. That there are people that go there and love it, but I wanted to try to help people with if you're going to go and you need to kind of focus, which most people have to, where are some places to definitely try. And that's where it started. And then it really was trying to figure out what's going to go in A, what's going to go in B. And I realized there were letters that I didn't have anything. Or there were places that would be perfect in the letter, but I had never been. And I really tried to write or at least interview and supplement with people who have experienced these types of things. So that's where the interviews with the cast members came in, and the interviews with the Disney chefs to really kind of supplement and add more life and interest into the book to really kind of understand behind the scenes of what it takes to make dining at Disney is so magical.
I really liked reading the input from the cast members that you had. And from Courtney and I, Courtney is a cast member. I'm a former cast member. That was kind of fun to be like, oh, my comrades, they're there.
Yeah, it was so fun to do because it really kind of happened out of nowhere. It was just, when I started the book, I didn't have the intention of I'm going to include all these interviews. And then my husband and I took a trip that was focused 100% on researching for this book. And it was just the two of us for 5 days. And when it's two adults, one, you can cover a ton of ground at Disney World when it's just two adults. Two, it's like a 5-day date. And three, you can eat a lot of food. So it's so much easier to get in a restaurant with a party of 2 than trying to get in with a party of 11, which is kind of what I'm used to. And so we just ate and ate and ate. And we would just start talking to cast members, either cast members we would see walking around the parks, at a food kiosk, at Flower and Garden, or even, especially at the restaurants in World Showcase. And that's where a lot of the folks came from. And then it just kind of happened from there of this person knew a person who worked at Disney and said, oh, you should interview this person. And then the chefs really kind of came about very just randomly. I had a friend who had worked there, so interviewed him, and then had a cast member that actually hooked me up with Chef Bruno from Chefs de France in France. And that was a huge opportunity to be able to interview him, and was such an amazing experience to get to talk to him.
I'm sure it was just as amazing for him too. I loved that you included those cast member interviews. Emily and I both worked originally on the college program in the front line of the park. Now I'm in a backstage area, but I loved those interactions with guests and having people take the time to ask for advice and ask about things. So I adored that you put that in there and encouraged your readers to do it as well. You mentioned a little bit about the structure, how there's a few things, about 3 to 5, I'd say, for most letters of the alphabet. Then, of course, for something like X, there's only one. Was it hard for you to decide what to put in each chapter for maybe some of those more common ones?
Yeah, especially when you get into things like M. So, I could literally have done M could have all been Mickey shaped this or that. And that's why I kind of tried to split it up a little bit based off the type of food, because I was really trying to think about the reader. And, if they're in with the book in the park, they're not going to be like, what I want right now is something Mickey shaped. They're going to be like, I want something sweet that's ice cream, or something salty that's popcorn or a pretzel. And so then they could kind of see where those chapters were that had that type of item. And I really have to give a lot of credit to my publisher, Theme Park Press, as well as the company he worked with that did the layout. They did such an incredible job of laying out the book to make it really easy for people to use it as a reference. So, and then also, the illustrator I worked with, who did such an incredible job with all these original illustrations inspired by Disney food. And it just really kind of made it structurally a nice guide to have, and kind of tool when you're thinking about food to quickly kind of look and find something. But yes, it was really hard. I have this notebook actually where I was laying out, and then I see all these like scratch marks or something that I thought about putting there, and then thought, no, put it over here, like candy apples versus calling them the Jack Skellington apples. And you also want to do things that will stand out to people and will be interesting to people too. So I could have just done, plain old candy apples, but I really thought it was fun to do Jack Skellington ones, especially because the illustrator for my book is a huge Jack Skellington fan. So I wanted to give her the opportunity to do something Jack Skellington. And there you go. She got to do a Jack Skellington apple.
So in your J section, you talk about journals and food journals. Did you turn back to your family and the food journals that you guys keep to help you with this book process?
Oh, absolutely. It was so funny because one of the things I mentioned there is actually a journal. He's now 10. He was 5 at the time. It was his first trip to Disney. And I am one of those moms that when my kids are at Disney, when they're younger, now, like my 18-year-old and my 20-year-olds, I can't, make them do this. But for the younger ones, I would tell them, hey, you need to keep some sort of journal. At the end of every day, write something, or draw a picture about the day. These things will matter to you later. It's one of those things as a mom, you look and you go, they hate you for making them do it. They're like, I'm on vacation, I don't want to do work. And you're like, do this, and I can promise you'll love it later. And it's so true. Every one of them, when they go back and they see something that they wrote about their vacation, or we kind of happen upon a journal, they just think it's really funny to see what the 7-year-old them or the 5-year-old them thought about Disney. But yeah, I actually did utilize my son Oliver. I used his journal from his very first trip when he was 5 to look back at some of the things he had talked about trying and things he had tasted. And then I also looked back at my daughter Annie. She's now in her 20s. She had done just a little journal where she had like drawn pictures and things. And so I looked at what she wrote and used a little bit of that just in there to add that little bit of color. And also I have a lot of readers that are kids, and they love reading about kids that are their age at a place that they love. They really, that's really neat to them. to hear another 5-year-old or another 7-year-old or 10-year-old what they thought of food. They just that's the feedback I've gotten from them, that they really like. I like reading about somebody my age being at the park and what they thought.
I think that's what makes this book very approachable for all readers, because you say within the intro that you have people from 5 to 58, picky eaters, and like people who are more daring alike, which is really nice. I do want to go back to the illustrations for a moment, because that was a fun part, but there's just one for each letter. So you said Jack Skellington, of course, gets to be J. Did your illustrator get to pick which of the items mentioned she wanted to draw, or did you like, oh, it has to be Mickey Waffles for this part?
Well, we actually figured that out a lot together. So what's really interesting is my illustrator is my daughter-in-law. So she did the cover art for my first book when she was still just my son's girlfriend. And then by the time the second book came out, she was actually his wife.
Aww.
So it was so exciting to get to have that she and I get to have this kind of project that we do together. And we really, really enjoy working together. And she is, as you can tell from the illustrations, incredibly talented. She is a huge Disney fan. They actually went to Disney World for their honeymoon. She was with us on our trip in 2015. So what we did together is we kind of said, okay, here's really what the chapters are kind of looking like. Here's the food and here's what's looking like it's going to end up in R. And we would brainstorm different ideas of different illustrations that could be represented there. So we had a couple of different things we talked about for S. And then there were a few illustrations that we had that just didn't make it in. She created some things that were so cool, and I can't think of one off the top of my head, but where there wasn't really a place for it. Because you also want to be careful about adding too much length to the book, because you don't want it to be an encyclopedia. And but she did an incredible job. It was really just a true partnership on, hey, could we do something Epcot holiday related? And then she would come back with, what about something like this or something like this? And she would show me her sketches. And that's how we ended up with Spaceship Earth with a Santa hat on it, which I just loved seeing it that way.
That's really awesome. So once you get these pictures and your research together, can you talk to us? You had mentioned your publisher's Theme Park Press. So how does wrapping this all together, going through your publishing process, look like?
Oh, gosh. So I actually did a presentation at my son's high school just a couple of months ago. They have a Writers Week, and they bring in local authors and artists from all over the place. And one of the things they said is, we need you to tell us your process. The kids want to know what your process is. So how do you go from this idea to this published book? And it's a lot, and you don't want me to talk through the whole thing. But for me, it really starts with an outline, and then I kind of do an expanded outline. I'm a really visual person, so it's hard for me to just look at a blank sheet of paper and start writing. That's a very hard process. So I use outlines. And then from there, it's just kind of expanding the outline, doing the research, working with the illustrator. My publisher and I kind of communicate a couple of times throughout the book. If there's things I kind of have a question on, or I'm thinking this kind of structure, I have this idea. What do you think? Is it worth putting in? There are some things that I really have, I would love to see, I want to see something like this. And he's like, people want to see that on a blog, not in the book. And so he provides really good guidance there. And basically I get it to a point where I have a completed manuscript that then I do an edit of it. My husband, who's also a writer, he does an edit. And then I have an amazing friend of mine who is a huge Disney fan and also a very talented writer. She is one of my readers. So she does a read through on it as well. And then from there, that manuscript goes to my publisher. He does his proof and edit. It comes back to me. We do a little back and forth on some of the changes, some of the removals, just, a couple little tweaks here and there that we find. And then that's when it goes into layout, and there's a process to register the book and get the code and get it registered with Amazon. And then I get an email one day that, hey, your book's on Amazon. And it's always really exciting to get that first box with your book in it. You really feel like, oh, this is a thing now. I have this physical thing in my hand. And it's just a really, it's a process that I'm starting to get down now that I've got 2 and I'm working on a 3rd. But every time it's slightly different depending on the subject of the book. But I think the best part is, that first time you hear from someone who's read it and what they think and what they enjoyed and what they caught as a source of enjoyment. So I love reading the reviews on Amazon to see what different people think and what stood out to them and who catches those little details that you take the time to put in there. And, from kids especially, because kids are just so honest. It's always fun to hear what they think.
That sounds so rewarding. I absolutely love that. Thank you for going into all that detail. We certainly don't mind. This is a Disney podcast, but primarily a book podcast. So it's certainly an aspect that we're interested in. And I know our listeners are too. One thing that I think you do a really good job in the book, and it pops up frequently, is just noting that things at Disney are subject to change. Like a drink that you may have seen on the menu online is no longer there, or one that you've loved and, look forward to getting has been taken off of the menu. It happens. I feel like things change every few months here across different restaurants, certainly not at one time. But do you think you'll ever write another volume to include other food choices, or if there's like a big change, let's say we get another festival, adding something like that?
It's so funny. As soon as the book comes out, literally within weeks of the book coming out, I had, the book came out in December and I was at Disney in February and experienced 2 places that I already want to go back. I was like, I already want to go back and edit it. So I had the opportunity to go to the Edison in Disney Springs, which is incredible. Such a cool place. It really has a Disney vibe, but for grown-ups. I've heard a lot of people say it's kind of getting closer to the Adventurers Club, which I was never old enough to experience when I visited Disney. So the Edison, as well as I had the chance to go to Trader Sam's, which is insanity and amazing. I mean, to sit there with a room full of grown-ups and going like, ooh, and all the different things, like, your waiter walks by in a snorkel and a baby inner tube. I mean, it's just, we were just sitting there just looking around going, what is happening? So both of those, I would love to just go back and do a revised version and say, okay, and now you have to go to these 2 as well. But that really is some of the hard part with writing a book versus a blog is the book is the book. And once it's done, you can always go back and add to it. But, you've got printed copies and people have it in their hands, and a little bit harder to go back and just change than say if you are writing a blog and you could just update an article. But I've had to learn to be comfortable with that piece that Disney does change. And it's interesting because the reason that I did put that in was after my first book, one of the reviews that I got was some of the stuff that you talked about wasn't that way anymore. And I thought that was a really good piece of feedback to take. And how do you address that constructive criticism? Because they were right. Yes, some of it, I was writing about things that were there in 2005 because I was writing about our wedding. And it was there in 2005, but it wasn't in 2016 when some people were reading the book. But so that is one of the reasons that Tasting the Magic says that, as well as the book that I'm working on now, is that Disney loves change. I mean, that is part of what makes it magical, and why people keep going back is because they can have different experiences. But what I really try to encourage people to do is to not get caught up in what's not there, but use this desire that you have, or this knowledge that you have of something that you want, as a way to engage with a cast member. And you may be directed to something that you could have never thought you would have experienced had you not. To me, the cast members are what make Disney magical. Whether that's dining, whether that's a character experience, a ride, any of those things that might change. Just engage with those cast members, and you'll be surprised by what they may be able to tell you, and new experiences they can drive you towards.
I love that so much. Thank you for saying that.
It's true. I'm so upset that they got rid of the applausograms. When I was there last, they were like, we don't do them anymore. And I was like, no.
But don't forget, you can hashtag cast compliment on Twitter, of course. And I do know that those get to those cast members. They print them out. And it's kind of a new media way of doing it. There's always ways to recognize, and they truly appreciate it.
Oh, they deserve it.
Yeah, and if you make a cast member's day a little bit more magical, right back around and makes the guest day more magical as well, because they feel, I know I personally felt more energized when someone said thank you or asked for my advice, or I got to help someone have a magical moment, and then I felt more energized to keep doing that for other guests. So please reach out to your cast members.
And the other thing too is you're going to be hard pressed to find a bigger Disney fan than most of those cast members. There's a reason they work there, and they pick up on these nuances. I remember one of the cast members describing Happily Ever After. It was right after it came out. We were at the parks, and they were saying, oh, this new show. They said that I'm a Hunchback of Notre Dame fan, and that point in the show is, she's like, oh, it's just so powerful. And when we were watching it, we were like, oh my gosh, like it really, really was. And it was so neat to see this movie that's not as big in the Disneyverse as some of the others, and that it did get this tribute, and just in such an incredible way. It was one of those moments that's like, I don't think they could have done this better. And this cast member was so right. It was such an amazing moment, and I'm glad we were kind of like, kind of anxiously waiting for that one to come, and made sure that we really saw it and absorbed it, because we knew it was coming. And cast members also, with the title of my first book, they always get the pun immediately, and they think it's hysterical. I have some people that are like, I don't get it. But cast members always get the whole not so evil versus evil stepmom, because Disney got something against moms. I don't know what we did, but like stepmoms, especially in Monster Home, Pixar seems to be okay with moms. But Disney, they get moms get a bad rap in a lot of Disney movies. So especially stepmothers. So it's always really neat to see the cast member reaction to the title of the book.
And I see that you still said that Meeting Lady Tremaine is on your need to meet list.
Oh, so I've met the stepsisters, and they were a blast.
They are so much fun to meet.
I tell people all the time, and they're like, wait, who? Oh, I didn't even know. And I was like, oh, it's the rare. I feel like the rare characters, all the characters are incredible to meet. But the rare characters, it's almost like they ham it up even more, because they just get, especially the villains, they get to have the most fun. The couple of friends of characters that I've talked to, they always say the villains seem to have the best time. And those two were just hysterical. And here's how crazy small the cast member world is. So I was there in May of 2017 with my husband, and we did a lantern photo shot. And one of the lantern photo shots, the Rapunzel lantern photo shots, I had a copy of my book. And so the cast member that was doing that's kind of like the lantern wrangler. So they have the person taking the pictures, and then they have someone who kind of helps you with the lantern itself. Had such an amazing magical personality. The guy was so fun. We had a great time with him. When I went to see the Evil Stepsisters, he was the photographer when I was there, and he remembered me. And this was almost a year later. So my husband and I saw him at the Lantern Photo May 2017. I got to meet the Evil Stepsisters in February of February of 2018, and he remembered us. And I mean, just to think about the thousands of people that this guy has probably taken pictures of between May of 2017 and February of 2018, and he remembered me. And that's the kind of stuff too that makes you feel that Disney doesn't, it just, makes you feel very special, and not the kind of thing that necessarily happens in a lot of other places. And so we had a great time, the group of us with Drusilla and Anastasia and this photographer and I.
Have you kept in touch with the cast members that you've put into your book?
Yes, I have. So I have the email for Chef Bruno. So I went back and did a photo with him with the book. And I also have a copy of both books that I have cast members and characters sign. So my copy of The Not So Evil Stepmother, my first book, I think I'm at 63 autographs between characters and cast members. So any cast member I met, I have multiple folks in guest relations. Every time we're at a resort and checking in, I ask the cast member to sign one or the other. What I've done with Tasting the Magic is I've gone back to as many of the restaurants that I mention in there. I've gone back and asked the cast members that are working at the restaurant at the time to sign the book, and people get very excited. There's this almost this sense of pride that people have to see someone say their restaurant is one of the best at Disney World, because I think everyone really understands how much competition there is. So Restaurant Marrakesh, San Angel, Art Smith Homecoming, a lot of them have gone back. And if I can find a cast member that I specifically wrote about, I'll specifically ask for them. So my favorite story is getting to take the book back and have the Starbucks barista, Josh, that I wrote about. I actually had him read his passage. So this is the first time he was seeing it. He had not seen I had told him I was writing a book, but you know how people are. Sometimes things don't follow through. So he was seeing the book for the first time and reading what I had written about him for the very first time. And I got it on film. And that was such a really fun moment to get to share that with him, and just also his reaction. And that he said to me later, that really made my day. I was having a rough day, and that made my day. And so again, getting to give a little magic back to those people that are giving you magic every day is very, very rewarding.
If I see any of those cast members, I'm going to tell them, I'm like, you're Josh from Starbucks, from Trisha's book. It made me think, like, oh, I should ask for Chef Bruno next time I go to France.
Ask him to just tell you a story. He's been at Epcot since it opened.
I love cast members like that. Like, they have the best stories and legacy.
Yeah, well, and it was so neat because the story he told, and I mentioned it in the book, but it was so neat because he basically was called by the head chef of Chefs de France, who Paul Bocuse, who is this incredibly famous French chef. There's a huge French culinary competition named after him. I mean, he is like one of the guys of French cuisine. And he actually passed away, I think it was either earlier this year or late last year. And Chef Bruno at Chefs de France worked for him. And Bocuse called him and said, I have this place I want you to go work. It's in the U.S. And so Chef Bruno had no idea he was working at a Disney theme park. He was moving from France to the U.S. and come to find out he's working at a Disney theme park. That's the restaurant that he's at. So he's been there 35 years, seems to have as much passion as he probably did the day he walked in the door. Just such a twinkle and it just so much energy about him, and just passion for what he's doing, for the food. You could tell all of the waiters and waitresses that worked at the restaurant had so much respect for him, and he was someone who was very well liked. It is amazing to see, and I could have talked to him for hours, and obviously he couldn't do that. But and just his excitement when I took the book back and gave him a copy, and to thank him for that opportunity, because it was such a rare opportunity to be able to interview him, to see that excitement again, but in a different way. Like, wait a minute, I'm in a book, and it was really, really unique and really fun. And he's just such a really wonderful person. Everybody, all of them, every person that I got to talk to is in that, but they're just some of those that stand out. I feel like I have a story for every cast member I talk to.
Yes, so I know you talk about Chef Bruno a lot and how much your family loves the restaurant in France, and you cite a lot of family favorites from past trips throughout your book. What dining locations or food are a must-have for your family on every trip?
Oh, gosh. See, that is so hard because there's so many, and it's so different depending on what is the mix of people that are with us, because there's times we travel with 11, there's times we travel with 2, there's times we travel with 5. I would say for my husband and I, we always love to go to Chefs de France. It's one of the first restaurants that we went to in 2005 when we were there for our wedding, and it was the first time that our family was at Disney altogether. So it holds a lot of memories for us, as well as the food is just amazing. I mean, it's really delicious French food, and we both really like French food. I'm stumbling a little bit in terms of like where else is a must. We love the butter chicken at Sanaa. It has become quite famous. I've actually seen like blog posts specifically about the butter chicken at Sanaa. And the fact that a giraffe is like, just moseying on by while you're eating it, just adds to how incredible, the whole unique vibe that Sanaa has. And Sanaa is over at Kidani Village, which is, the Disney Vacation Club resort. Be Our Guest is another one. I'm excited to know that they're updating the menu a little bit. I'm hoping that they keep the French food feel of it, because that's something that we actually liked a lot about Be Our Guest, is that it was French, and you could kind of have a non-theme park food type of meal at Magic Kingdom, which can be a little bit harder than some of the other parks to find, kind of get out of that theme park food space. But the one that is always on a must list that I can say every trip since 2005 we have gone there is Tutto Gusto Wine Cellar in Italy in Epcot. And this one is really kind of a hidden gem, because I've talked to cast members that are foodies and didn't even know about this little place, because it's tucked behind Tutto Italia. So it's really easy to miss. And it's almost like you're really in a wine cellar in the middle of Italy, and the food is amazing. The cocktails are amazing. The cast members are incredible. Every time we've gone, consistently without fail, we have a cast member who's excited to see you. They want to talk to you about where they're from. They are excited to be at Disney World and talking with guests. And they have so much passion for Italy, for the food that Tutto Gusto serves. And it's just, we always sit on these couches that they have in front of a fireplace. And it's always nice and cool in there. It's a great place to just go cool off and relax. It doesn't take reservations. It's a lounge. And we've never had an issue getting in, which is kind of crazy, because you'd think like, it's this amazing lounge, and everyone that goes tells me thank you. It was one of my favorite meals or food experiences at the park, but it's amazing that it still kind of seems like this hidden gem. And I always hesitate to say it on podcasts, because I'm like, someday I'm going to go in that place and it's going to be packed, and then it's not a hidden gem anymore. But that is definitely one that is on our list every time, whether we have multiple kids with us, one kid, or it's just the two of us. We usually try to go there.
I need to check it out.
Yeah, I have never heard of that one either.
I've heard of it. I just have never been in there. So I'm going to go for you, Trisha.
See, and then you can tell me if it was really good or not.
Yeah. Well, if it has wine, I'm fine.
My family,
yes,
guilty. So since we are Italian, we kind of avoid Italy, because we do so much homemade stuff all the time that when we go to Epcot, we're like, the last thing I want is more Italian. So we kind of avoid Italy. So I've never eaten in Italy or gotten any food there.
So then you just need to go, and they have this amazing cocktail, and the name is escaping me. I'm so sorry. It's Prosecco with fresh strawberry puree in it. So you don't even have to eat the food. Just go and have the Prosecco and have a drink. Like as you're walking around the World Showcase, it's like in Italy's like the perfect location where it is time to take a break. You have made it halfway, no matter whether you came through Mexico or you came through Canada, you have made it halfway that you deserve a break. And that is the perfect place to stop and take it. So, but they have just prosciuttos and fresh mozzarella. So you can even just do kind of a snack, antipasti kind of thing there as well.
So while we're on the subject of Epcot, talking about festivals, we are Food and Wine just started, so we're celebrating the food and wine season. But Epcot has really expanded their festivals. You have Flower and Garden, Festival of the Arts. All of these now include food. So which festival has been your favorite to experience?
Oh, gosh. See, that's like choosing a favorite kid because each of them has something unique that the other ones don't have. And I feel like it's like Food and Wine is really Food and Wine, and it has, all these crazy, amazing food experiences, these unique food opportunities. But and each one of them has something that I love. So I was able to go to Festival of the Arts. So I've had the chance to go to all four. And I'm actually trying to go to all four in 1 year. So this year I got to go to Flower and Garden and Festival of the Arts. And I'm trying to get a weekend to go to Food and Wine just for a day or two. And then we're planning to go to International Festival of the Holidays in December because we haven't been around. My husband hasn't been to Disney around the Christmas holiday since we got married in 2005. So he really wants to go back. It was very different, 13 years ago. I just feel like each of them has something. Maybe Flower and Garden, I feel like plays on all of your senses with the flowers, the smells that you get, the food, also the amazing topiaries and the displays. Festival of the Arts, I loved that you could go in the paintings and have that living art. And just seeing all of the artists and all of the unique ways that different artists interpret Disney, that was just so cool. I mean, you could spend a week just wandering and still not see everything. And Festival of the Holidays, I'm a Christmas fan, so that one has that whole other element of all of the neat stories they tell with how Christmas is around the world. And I describe it in the book is with the holiday tables or the holiday kitchens, that it's almost like you got invited to a friend's house in France and you're getting to have, these are the things you'd have in France around the holidays, or you're at this friend's house in Mexico and this is the type of food that you would eat. So that one has this whole other element because I feel like Disney is at its most magical that time of year with all the decorations and the detail and thought that's put into every single one of those decorations. And that in a lot of the restaurants, there's a holiday tree in the restaurant that is specific to that restaurant and just that detail. And I feel like so much of that comes alive during that time of year. So I kind of lean a little bit towards Festival of the Holidays because it's that Christmas and food and Epcot and World Showcase and World Showcase looks so beautiful with all the decorations. But each of them, it just has something that's really, really hard. You'd think I'd say Food and Wine, right? Like as a foodie, you'd be like, it's totally Food and Wine. But I feel like the experiences that I have had at Festival of the Arts and Flower and Garden and Festival of the Holidays has actually been a little bit better.
I kind of like them too because it feels more approachable. It's not as daunting. And your love of Christmas definitely showed. I am a huge Halloween fan. That's my big holiday. But reading your Christmas description, I was like, ooh, now I'm getting excited for Festival of the Holidays and all of, like the Three Kings bread and those different items. But as I said, Food and Wine is the big one,
Yeah.
Over 35 booths, now 75 plus days long. Do you have any strategies for tackling Food and Wine Festival? I know some people try to do it all, sometimes for budget constraints or just, being able to eat everything. You don't want to eat all that they have there. So do you have a certain approach that you take when you go?
The way that I do it, and I do this with all of the festivals because in general, there's always kind of more at the festival than most people are going to have time to eat. So if you're one of those lucky folks that lives 10 minutes from Disney or you're a cast member, you're going to be there a little bit more. You can pop in and visit a holiday kitchen but for the rest of us, it's like you've got 2 days to tackle the festival. And if you try to eat all of that, that would not be pleasant, especially at something like Food and Wine. So one tip I always give people is travel with friends. The festivals, travel with friends who share food. Don't travel with those people that are like, my food, I don't share, because the best part is getting to go around and try all the different things, and having a one bite of something, you're going to be able to have a lot more bites if you're sharing it with a couple other people, as opposed to trying to eat an entire bowl of soup or an entire burger yourself. And some of the festival food really is that kind of 1-2 bite, small plate tapas style, but some of it's not. Some of it is pretty substantial portion sizes. So when I've been there by myself trying to tackle a festival, it's very daunting. And most of the time I'm just like, oh, I wish I had someone here with me to help me try to eat this. But I kind of use the same approach for the festival food as I do for figuring out what attractions and shows and how to just prioritize in general at Disney, as I do an A and a B list. You have those things that are really almost kind of those must-sees, and that's what's in your A list. It's the things that your vacation kind of feel complete if you haven't tried this food or had this experience or gone on this ride. And then you have a B list, and you try to tackle that A list as best you can. I always find I'm more aggressive than my stomach can handle usually with the things that I want to try. But I really think having that A and B list can help. And then it can also help you a little bit with how to space out your time, because the other piece of the festival, that World Showcase is so big. And you can think like, oh, well, I'm going to pop over to France and just grab this. But that might be like a 1/4 mile walk to pop over to France and have this cocktail in your strategy. So you kind of really have to kind of think about what order are you going to be having things. So if you're hitting Canada at 2:00 in the afternoon, and that is one of the hottest points during the day in Florida, probably not the time to have the cheddar cheese soup. Maybe try to go back later, like 9:00 at night when it's cooled off a little bit, and just kind of thinking through some of those types of things. But I love those passport books too. Those are so fun. They're like the best free souvenir, and I really those are a blast. And I definitely think you should get one of those and check off what you did get to try, because it's like having a little food journal.
That's what I do. I always pick up the passport and I scan that first before I even leave the gate of World Showcase. And I'm like, okay, I guess I make more of a mental A/B list, but I definitely map out. And it was nice when I was a cast member being able to go back and forth. I would just keep the passport with me. I'd be like, oh, I'm done work at 2:00. What do I want for dinner tonight? And I just start flipping through the passport and make my selections to go around the festival.
See, that to me is ideal. Like, I'm going to go to Disney for a week, and this just like every night, my dinner, my appetizer, entree, and dessert will just be something at Epcot. That's the way I think it's the best way to tackle one of the festivals and really get the max. But I know what a lot of people do, and we've done this, is we're, doing Epcot, one day at Epcot or a day and a half or two at Epcot. For most of the festivals, you're not going to get through all of the food and that. You can try, but you might not feel so great by the end of the day, because it's a lot of liquor too. There are a lot of drinks and cocktails and wines and beers at a lot of these. So I know most people, when they try to drink around the world, they get to like country 3 or 4 and they're falling over. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind, is there's 11 countries. That's a lot of drinking.
For sure. So thinking about what you've tried at festivals, and also going back to your eating A to Z alphabet challenge, what is something that you tried that pleasantly surprised you? Like something totally unexpected?
Oh, that pleasantly surprised me. There was actually at Flower and Garden this year. Okay, so yes, this is the perfect story. Okay, so my husband and I tried the violet lemonade last year at Flower and Garden, and I have to be honest, I really didn't like it. I was like, it's fine. It wasn't like I actively disliked it, and I was disappointed because I really wanted to like it because it's so pretty. And then when we were there in May, we were there with some folks that had never tried it before, and they wanted to. And we were eating it with, they have a sugarcane shrimp that is delicious at Flower and Garden. And my understanding is they have kind of a version of it almost every year. And we had the shrimp with the violet lemonade, and we figured out that's really the way to enjoy it. And so I was really shocked at how different the second time having it and how good it actually was that second time. And, that's some of the things that you learn is definitely, you get to kind of try foods different ways, and some things just pair better with others. So that one was a surprise. And then the other one that was a huge surprise that we really that I really liked was at Festival of the Holidays. They had this avocado crema, and it was used on a savory dish for Festival of the Holidays, and then the following year was used on a sweet dish at Food and Wine. And my close friend, I call her my Disney bestie. She's a fellow foodie, and that was her favorite taste at all of Food and Wine, was it in a sweet dish, and I had it in the savory, and we both just were really surprised at how well this same food item transferred between the savory and the sweet so well at both festivals.
I think that's one of the great things about the festivals is that there's such small sizes that it's so easy to try something and branch out. You had mentioned the buttered chicken at Sanaa. They had served it a few years ago at the Africa booth, and I had never tried it before, and it ended up being one of my favorite dishes that year. Just like, oh, well, it's $4.25. It's a small portion. If I don't like it, my friend can eat it, like you said, sharing. So definitely a great opportunity for that. I think that does transition well into one of the parts of the book that you open with that I liked was your dining do's and don'ts. We don't have to go over all of them, but would you mind sharing just a few with our listeners? I feel like we've touched on some, like engaging with cast members, but if there's anything else you want to leave us with.
I definitely think the one that I really try to encourage people the most is try something new. When you're at Disney, you're on vacation, you're out of your comfort zone, you're out of your routine. It's the perfect time to challenge your taste buds, and you really can. So often we're used to theme park food being burgers and fries and chicken nuggets, and Disney has successfully since basically the 90s challenged that's not what theme park food has to be. And so I always really encourage people, see if you can challenge yourself to try something new every day. If not every day, at least once or twice on your trip. And I've heard a lot of people say, like, my kid at home won't try anything, and I got him at Disney, and suddenly they were trying this thing and that thing, and they liked it. And it's like, yeah, if Mickey's walking around encouraging you to eat broccoli, probably going to get the kid to eat broccoli, unless you got Mickey at home. Most of us don't. So definitely use it as an opportunity to try something new. And just also remember that dining is the cast members and the Disney Imagineers put as much theming and Imagineering into the dining as they do the rides and attractions. So that's what I really always encourage people to try to remember, is that dining is part of that experience too. And it doesn't mean you have to go and spend a ton of money at Cinderella's Royal Table to have that. It's at any number of different places in the quick service as well as in the signature dining. And it really it can add an element to your vacation that can sometimes be hard to get otherwise, because you're really there and you're engaged with the people that you're on vacation with. And, they always say food brings people together. And I think that that's definitely the case at Disney. And they think that through, and they give you opportunities to really do that.
Well, I am so glad that food has brought us together today. This has been a lovely chat. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much, Trisha.
Absolutely.
We're going to go ahead and preview what we're going to be covering next, and then we'll let the listeners know where you can find Trisha, us, our channels. So next time, as I mentioned, Halloween is one of my favorites. So prepping for Halloween, we'll be reading the poem The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving, and we'll talk about the poem, explore its history, and how it was adapted for Disney's 1949 package film, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad. So we hope you'll come back for that. If you want to keep up with us in the meantime, we're at Book of the Mouse Club on Twitter and Instagram. Trisha, where can our listeners find you?
So my big place is Instagram, and on Instagram you can find me at @NotSoEvil_Disney Stepmom. So play on that first book title, and then I am also on Facebook at author Trisha Daab, and my name is spelled TRISHADAAB. And I'm also on Amazon. So my books are available on Amazon. So if you just search Tasting the Magic from A to Z, you'll absolutely find my second book, or even on my name to find both books, and also the upcoming book 3 that it will hopefully be out this year. That's the plan.
Can you share a little what it's about, or is that a secret?
No, I can actually. And I have exciting news. We finally have figured out a working title for it. So the book is like 65-70% done, and I hadn't thought of a title, and it was driving me nuts because my other 2 started with the title. I had a title, and then I was like, now I need to write a book that fits this title. So where the working title for it is The Story Comes Alive, the guide to movies and characters at Walt Disney World Resort. And it's really taking movies and characters, beloved movies and characters, and telling you all the different ways you can find and experience that story and that character around the resort. So going beyond just meet and greets to statues at resorts, rooms at resorts, the mini golf, seeing them in a water park, the food, where can you kind of experience them in food form? What are places that really tell a great story for that character? And then also things that happen seasonally all around Walt Disney World, including your favorite time of year at Halloween.
That sounds like an awesome book. We will definitely have to ask you back when we can get our hands on that copy.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Right up my alley with storytelling.
Yeah, it's really funny because people ask me 3 questions. Whenever somebody says, oh, you know about Disney, can you help me plan my vacation? Number 1 is, should I stay on property? And I'm always like, yes, read book 1. You'll understand why. Number 2 is, where should I eat? And I'm like, read book 2. And then number 3 is, where can I find all the insert character names? So Mickey, Frozen, Ariel, is there anything Roger Rabbit at Disney World? And that's usually the 3rd question that I get. And I'm like, well, I guess I need to write a book to answer that one. I got the first 2, and now we need to write a 3rd. And that's really where this came from. But I can't even tell you the amount of research. Oh, my goodness. So much. And I always want to have a visual verification of that something's there. So you might read that somebody says something's there, but I'm like, I want to see visual proof that it's there. And there are so many things I've learned. And I've said before, my Disney bestie, she is a huge Disney fan. And I've found things that she didn't know. And that was my goal. It's like, if I can find like 2 things she didn't know, I've achieved my goal in this book. And so I found my 2, and I'm like, yes, mission accomplished. I found 2 things she didn't know about. So it's been really fun, though. I have learned a lot about Disney World for this book.
Oh, I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm glad you brought up Roger Rabbit because Courtney and I are on a crusade to bring Roger Rabbit back into the parks more because we love his story and his movie. So if you want to join our escapade to bring Roger Rabbit more into the park, we'd love to have you on our side.
Well, I have this great photo of my brother. So it was back in the 90s when they had like the Roger Rabbit area at
he was everywhere.
He was, and like you could lay in the body outline with like the safe on your head, like from the movie. And I have like this great photo of my brother in his super 90s outfit with like the socks and the shorts and the whole bit, like laying there with a safe on his head. I mean, there's so much Roger Rabbit you can find. But there are a couple of things. They're very, very subtle, but there are a few things that you can find.
We'll leave it to them to get your book so that they can find out for themselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, so listeners, you can find me, Emily, on both Instagram and Twitter at Emily_McD.
And you can find me, Courtney, on Twitter at Courtney_Guth or Great Guthsby on Instagram. Trisha, would you like to take us out with a closing quote since you were our guest of honor today?
Yes, so the closing quote is kind of one of my do's in the book Tasting the Magic. When dining at Disney, try something new and make dining part of the experience. Belly dancers, drive-in movies, eating in an aquarium, or dining in a castle with princesses. Disney theming and magic is not just for rides and shows, it's also for food.
I love it. And we hope that our listeners are able to take some of those do's and don'ts to their next trip. So thank you again for joining us, and we'll see everyone next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Book of the Mouse Club has no affiliation with the Walt Disney Company. The views and opinions expressed by hosts and participants are theirs and theirs alone. They do not represent the organizations or companies they happen to work for.